You know, we often overestimate what we can do in a month, but underestimate what we can achieve in a year if we just keep moving forward 1% every single day. I'm 60 years old now, and I say this not from books or theories, but from life itself. I've met so many people, some successful, some struggling, and most of them share the same mistake. They look for quick change. But life doesn't work that way. A friend of mine, his name was Michael, once said to me, "I just want things to get better, fast. I don't have time." And I remember looking at him and saying, "Michael, if you don't have time to do what's right, you'll soon lose time fixing what went wrong." We often get caught up in the illusion that to change our lives, we need a giant leap, a big decision, a dramatic turning point. But in truth, every real transformation begins with the smallest of steps. Imagine this. A plane leaves New York just 1 degree off course, and it ends up in Washington instead of Miami. Just 1 degree and the destination completely changes. Your life works the same way. One small choice today, one that no one even notices, can create a completely different person 5 years from now. When I was younger, I thought discipline was something heavy, restrictive, but now I realize discipline is freedom. Those without discipline live with regret. Those with discipline live in peace. And here's the funny thing. Small daily changes naturally build discipline. You don't have to be extraordinary. You just need to stay consistent with ordinary things for an extraordinary amount of time. Once I worked with a woman named Linda. She was 52, divorced, in poor health, and had lost faith in herself. She said to me, "I'm not young anymore. I've missed too many chances." And I asked her one simple question. If you got 1% better every day, how much better would you be in a year? She looked confused. So I said, 365 times 1%. If you grow 1% a day, by the end of the year, you'll be 37 times better than you are today. That's the math of compound growth, not just in money, but in habits and mindset. She started by walking 10 minutes each morning, then 20. Then instead of watching TV at night, she read for 15 minutes. 3 months later, she emailed me saying, "I feel alive again, not because of luck, but because of consistency." Have you ever seen a bamboo tree? The Chinese bamboo tree is watered and cared for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and still nothing seems to happen. But in the 5th year, it suddenly shoots up 90 feet in a matter of weeks. The question is, did the bamboo grow in those few weeks or in those 5 years? The answer is obvious. It grew for 5 years underground, building its roots. And so do you. You may not see results yet, but if you're planting the right seeds, your roots are growing deep inside you. One of the greatest lessons I've learned in 30 years of working with people is this. Most people quit in what I call the valley of disappointment. It's that stage when you've been trying for weeks or months and nothing seems to change. You start doubting yourself, comparing with others, and then you stop. But what you don't realize is you were just a few steps away from the breakthrough. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they quit right before things begin to bloom. I once read a study from Harvard that said people who stick to a positive habit for at least 66 days are 80% more likely to maintain it long-term than those who give up earlier. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. Missing 1 day is fine. 2 days, still okay. But once you start telling yourself, "It's fine, I'll skip just this once," that's when the cracks appear, and cracks are where willpower leaks out. When I look back, the most successful people I've met, entrepreneurs, athletes, parents, ordinary folks, all share one thing. They don't rely on motivation every day. They rely on systems. A running coach friend of mine once said, "I don't run because I love running. I run because I love the feeling after I run." That's the key difference. You don't have to love every step of the journey. You just have to love who you're becoming. I once asked a group of students, what's more important, motivation or habit? Most of them said motivation, but the right answer is habit. Because motivation is emotion, it comes and goes. Habit is a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it gets. A single small action today, drinking an extra glass of water, calling an old friend, walking for 5 minutes, can change how you feel about yourself. And once you change how you see yourself, you change everything else. I know, at this age, we're not chasing speed anymore. We just want peace and purpose. But peace doesn't come from standing still. It comes from moving forward slowly, but with intention. I often tell my students, if you want to climb a mountain, don't think about the mountain. Think about the rock in front of you, one rock at a time. And before you know it, you'll look around, feel the wind on your face, and whisper to yourself, I did it. The world celebrates results, but life rewards the process. Happiness doesn't come from achievement. It comes from the feeling of progress, even if it's just 1%. And I want you to remember this. You don't need a better tomorrow if today you simply choose to be 1% better than yesterday. That's what I've learned after all these years observing teaching and living. Life isn't a race, it's cultivation. Every day you plant something and you will harvest it, not immediately, but inevitably. I don't know where you are on your journey right now. Maybe you're starting over. Maybe you feel it's too late. But I want you to know it's never too late to adjust your course by just 1 degree. Because that single degree, over a year, 5 years, 10 years, can land you in a completely different place. A place you once thought you could never reach. When I say that just 5 months of discipline can change your entire life, many people laugh. They say, 5 months, I've lived 50 years, what difference could 5 months make? And I just smile. Because I know what matters isn't the amount of time, but how you live within that time. You can live 10 years and simply repeat one old year 10 times. Or you can live just 5 months and change the entire way you see the world. I've witnessed it, not in books, but in real people. People who once believed they were out of chances, yet rose again like a flame. And that miracle almost always begins with one small decision. I'm gonna live differently starting today. Month 1, honesty. This is the hardest month, not because you can't do anything yet, but because you must finally face yourself. When I used to work with training groups, I often told my students, you can't fix what you refuse to face. Honesty is the foundation of all transformation. Not honesty with others, but with yourself. I once met a man named Robert, 56 years old. He had a stable job, a family, but always felt empty. He said, I've worked hard my whole life, but I'm not happy. I asked, if you knew what made you unhappy, would you dare to change it? He went silent, then whispered, I'm afraid that if I change, everything will fall apart. And I told him, not changing is also a way for things to fall apart, just more slowly. Robert began by journaling every morning, just 10 minutes. He wrote down what he really felt, what he really thought. No pretending, no masks. After 3 weeks, he said, I've started hearing my own voice again. You see, honesty isn't about judgment, it's about illumination. Because only when you see the cracks can you repair the house of your soul. Month 2. Relearning how to learn. Learning isn't about classrooms or books. It's about being open. I once met a woman named Susan, 58. She told me I'm not good with technology. My time was different. I said, yes, your time was different, but curiosity hasn't changed. So she started learning Zoom, editing videos, blogging, a little each day. 3 months later, she launched a YouTube channel sharing her retired life. Now thousands follow her, not because she's perfect, but because she's real. The world doesn't demand perfection, it just asks that you grow. When you learn, your mind expands, and a mind that has expanded can never return to its old size. Month 3. Action. This is where 90% of people quit. They say, I want to change, but they never move. I once asked a 45-year-old man, you want to write a book, right? He nodded. So, how many pages have you written? He looked down. I'm waiting for inspiration. I laughed gently. Inspiration comes after action, not before it. You don't need grand steps every day, just small, consistent ones. Write for 10 minutes. Walk for 15. Turn off the TV 30 minutes earlier and read a few pages. Small things compound like drops of water shaping stone. My students are often surprised. Only a few months, and I feel like a different person. And I tell them, it's not that you've changed fast, it's that you finally started. Month 4, facing pressure. This is when life will test you. You'll feel tired, doubtful, tempted to return to comfort. But that's a good sign, because pressure doesn't destroy you, it forges you. Think of a diamond. It cannot exist without immense pressure over millions of years. You're the same. Difficult days are the gym of your spirit. I once asked a friend, a former Marine, how did you survive the hardest training days? He said, I didn't think about 8 weeks. I thought about 8 hours. That's the secret. Don't fight the whole journey. Just get through today, then the next day. And slowly you'll realize you've come much farther than you imagined. Month 5, transformation. This is when results start showing, quietly, deeply. One morning, you'll look in the mirror and notice you smile more. You fear less. You no longer wake up feeling empty, but with a sense of purpose. And the most beautiful part, you begin to believe in yourself again. One of my students once said, "I never thought I could live differently." 5 months later, she sent me a photo standing atop a mountain with new friends smiling brightly. She wrote, "I've found myself again. That, my friend, is what success truly means. Not fame, not money, but peace with yourself and pride in who you're becoming." When I look back on the thousands I've worked with, I see one thing in common among those who truly change their lives. They don't need to know the entire path. They just need to see the next step. They don't wait for motivation. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They simply begin and let consistency do the rest. You might feel like it's too late to turn around. I've felt that too. At 40, I lost everything: my job, my marriage, my faith. I sat on my porch one cold evening and asked myself, is it even worth starting over? I don't know what pushed me up the next morning, but I wrote down 3 things. I want to live meaningfully. I want to be healthier. I want to learn to love myself again. Those 3 goals became my compass for the next 20 years. I share this not to stir regret, but to remind you it's never too late to begin again. The only truly late moment is the one where you stop believing you can start anew. Change doesn't happen in one night, but it begins in one night, the night you decide, enough. I'm going to live differently. Now I want you to imagine this. 5 months from today, you wake up to a bright morning full of energy. You open the door, take a deep breath, and feel peace within. No more thoughts of, I'm too late. No more, I can't change, because you've proven otherwise. You've been honest. You've taken action. You've stayed consistent even when afraid. And that not the results is the real turning point of your life. At 40, 50, or 60, life is no longer a race against others. It's a journey inward, a journey of growth, courage, and rediscovering meaning. And sometimes all it takes is 5 months of living with purpose. You know I've lived long enough to understand one simple truth. Life doesn't change because we wish it would. It changes because we finally act. And the biggest regret of my life isn't the mistakes I've made. It's the days I hesitated thinking I still had time. But you and I both know time waits for no one. It slips quietly through our fingers, leaving behind a handful of what-ifs that can never be fixed. I've met so many people in their 50s and 60s who told me, I wish I'd started earlier. And I look at them and say, that's okay. Because if you start today, then today is the earliest day left in the rest of your life. You see, we spend so much of life waiting for the perfect moment, when the kids are older, when the finances are better, when things finally calm down. But let me tell you the truth, the perfect time never comes. Change doesn't wait for you to be ready. It waits for you to begin. And you can begin right now with small, simple steps that seem too ordinary for anyone to notice. That's the essence of the 1% rule. You don't need giant leaps, just a 1-degree shift each day. And time will take care of the rest. I remember my old friend Martin. He was an engineer who retired at 62. On his first day of retirement, he called me and said, I don't know who I am anymore. You see, that's what happens when we spend our whole life doing and forget how to be. I told him, Martin, you can start again. Try something that makes you feel alive. He gave a sad little laugh. I'm too old. And I said, age is just a number. Curiosity is the real age of your soul. 2 months later, he called again, excited. I'm learning to play guitar. A year later, he performed at a small concert for seniors. I asked, how does it feel? He said, I feel 20 years younger. You see, change isn't about age, it's about readiness. Let me tell you another story. I once talked to a woman in her 50s who said, I've tried to change so many times, but I always quit halfway. I asked, why did you quit? She said, because I didn't see results. So I smiled and asked her, do you know how bamboo grows? For the first 4 years, nothing appears above the ground. People think it's dead, but in truth, it's growing deep roots beneath the soil. Then in the 5th year, it shoots up 25 meters in just a few weeks. Human success is the same. No one sees the roots you're growing, the early mornings, the quiet persistence, the small habits. But one day when you finally rise, people will say, wow, they're so lucky. And you'll smile because you know it wasn't luck. It was discipline. Now, I want you to imagine this. 5 months from today, you look back at your journey. You no longer see a tired or uncertain person, but someone who knows who they are, what they want, and most importantly, that they can. You may not have achieved everything yet, but you've changed deeper, calmer, stronger. And when you change, inside everything outside begins to shift too. Because as I always tell my students, you can't live a new life with the same old version of yourself. I know change can be frightening. It makes you feel lonely, lost, misunderstood. But believe me, every great person you admire has walked through that same valley. Edison was called a failure before he lit the world. Walt Disney was fired for lacking imagination. And J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter in a shabby cafe with her baby sleeping beside her. They all started with one small step no one believed would work, but they did. And they kept going, day after day. That's the 1% rule in motion. You know, I used to think motivation was the key to success, but now at 60, I've learned this truth. Motivation gets you started. Discipline gets you finished. Motivation is the spark, but discipline is the fuel. Without it, the fire dies. And discipline isn't harshness. It's simply doing the right thing even when you don't feel like it. Like walking for 10 minutes when it's cold, reading 5 pages when you're tired, or saying thank you when you're not in the mood. These little things may seem small, but they're the foundation of a powerful life. Now I want you to pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, if I improved by just 1% every day, what would my life look like 5 months from now? Maybe you'd be healthier, calmer, kinder. Maybe you'd be proud of the person you've become. And when that feeling comes, it won't be loud or dramatic. It'll be quiet, a small smile on your face because you'll know, I did it. I didn't give up. Today, you don't need a perfect plan. You don't need grand goals. You just need to choose one small thing and begin. Maybe read a page, call an old friend, write down 3 things you're grateful for. Just start, because the moment you start, you've already defeated fear. Let me tell you this as an old friend who's been around long enough to know, change doesn't come from miracles. It comes from the days you choose not to quit. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for someone to push you. No one else can live this life for you. You are the pilot of your plane. Every choice you make, every habit you keep, is how you steer it. And even a 1-degree shift can change your destination entirely. So when this video ends, don't just say, that was inspiring. Ask yourself, which way will I tilt my life today? If you tilt toward discipline, toward learning, toward gratitude, then believe me, a few months from now, you won't be the same person watching this video. You'll be a wiser, freer, stronger version of yourself. And if today my words meant something to you, leave me a small sign, a comment, a like, or a simple subscribe. Not because I care about numbers, but because I want to know you've decided to begin. Because who knows, 5 months from now, you might come back and write, I did it, I changed. And when you do, I'll smile because I'll know you've tilted your plane in the right direction. 1% a day and your whole life changes. Thank you for listening. I'm your companion on this journey, a 60-year-old believer that there are still miracles waiting ahead for you. Start today.